Hello, today we are talking about mental health, especially healing our anxiety. Depending on how you deal with your anxiety, anxiety can be helpful or anxiety can give you hell. In this video, I need your attention because you will get to know how to safely respond to a moment of anxiety or panic so that you can feel better, right? Let's dive in. I'd like to welcome every self-healer out there to my channel. This is our virtual therapy session 2 on how to deal with anxiety. Through our session today, I'd like to offer you concrete and actionable way of dealing with anxiety and reducing our anxiety. Okay, here's how we're going to have virtual therapy session. We're going to have a session together as if we're having a conversation, as if we're exchanging ideas here. So there's a back and forth movement here. I'm going to prepare a set of questions I'm going to ask you, and I'll give you time here, or you can pause the video to think about your thoughts, think about your feelings, and you can say out loud your answers. If you have a pen and paper handy, you can write down your answers. Alright, let's review your progress. So first of all, I'd like to talk about GAD-7, the inventory we talked about in last session. GAD-7 is inventory for measuring the severity of signs of anxiety, such as feeling nervous or restless, excessive worrying, trouble sleeping, feeling afraid as something awful might happen. The list goes on. GAD-7 talks about 7 specific anxiety symptoms. There's a link to GAD-7 down below description box, and go ahead and take your time to fill out this form. Alright, is your score higher than last time or lower than last time? If so, what symptom has been decreased or increased? I like to stress the importance of symptom management. Anxiety feels different depending on the person who experiences it. Some people say anxiety is like worrying too much. Others can say anxiety is like feeling tense or fidgety. Anxiety is a very subjective feeling. I encourage you to monitor the specific symptoms that you're likely to experience so that you can work on managing that symptom. So next question is, how would you describe your mood lately? I'd like to hear your own description of your mood, looking at past week or past 2 weeks. To be objective, how anxious were you on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 being the most anxious you can be, 0 being the emotionally and physically neutral. In our last session, we talked about self-holding exercise. With this exercise, we are able to use our hands to scan our body from head to toe and allow our body to regulate whatever sensation going on in a natural and organic way. So, did you get to use self-holding exercise? If so, I'm curious about your experience with this exercise. There are 4 questions I'd like to ask you. I have 4 questions for you. When, where, and why, and how did you use your self-holding exercise? And I'll give you time here to answer these 4 questions. Again, when, where, why, and how did you use your self-holding exercise? After using self-holding exercise, what change did you notice physically and emotionally? In order to further monitor your progress, I have these self-reflection questions. It's called life-giving and life-draining. Our mind can be very black and white, all or nothing, and it is important to have a balance in our mind and body. I have a very simple 2 questions so that you can balance your thinking process. The first question is, what has been life-giving? Life-giving is very self-explanatory. It means something that brings you joy or calmness or other pleasant emotions. Whereas life-draining means something that brings you anxiety, stress, depression, anger, frustration, something that you struggle with. Can you tell me 2 life-giving things and 2 life-draining things, looking at the past 2 weeks? For me, going for a walk and dancing were life-giving, and cleaning my room and stuck in traffic were life-draining. Dealing with anxiety means being able to contain your anxiety and regulate on your own creative way. In our mind, we say, I need to feel relaxed, I need to feel calm, this is so bad, what is happening, what's wrong with me? We make these statements to push away our anxiety, to alienate our anxiety. Our mind can be very cluttered. it seems impossible to analyze what's really happening. In order to declutter our mind and body, here's a great tool. It's called mindfulness. Simply put, mindfulness is about staying in the moment, noticing moment by moment, staying in here and now. Oftentimes we're operating on an autopilot. We're consumed by our thoughts. We're so focused on moving from point A to point B. Therefore, we lose touch with our environment. It is normal to stay in our mind because we need to worry about our issues such as relationship issues, money issues, problems at work, or lack of self-esteem, the list goes on. However, have you ever worried so much about your issues to the point that you don't even remember how you got home? Or you don't even remember what kind of things you watched on TV? When we are stuck in our mind, we often lose contact with what's really happening around us. I will argue that a lot of times anxiety is triggered by our thoughts about uncertainty or perceived danger in the future. I've noticed that a lot of my clients, including myself, get anxious when having what if thoughts. What if this happened? What if that happened? What if I get panic attack at work? What if my partner doesn't trust me? What if my boss wants to fire me? What if people judge me? The one negative thought can create another negative thought, another negative thought, another negative thought, another negative thought. The longer the chain goes, the more anxious we can feel. So we need to get out of our mind and reconnect with the present moment. As the saying about the mindfulness goes, awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose, the present moment, and non-judgmentally. Mindfulness takes conscious and purposeful attention to what's really happening in the present moment. In this process, we want to see things as literally they are. And this is where non-judgmental stance comes into play in order to see things as they are. Am I seeing a hand as a hand? Or am I seeing a hand as an ugly hand? A lot of times human brain tend to analyze, evaluate things because it is survival instinct. It is evolutionary adaptation. Good or bad, fair or unfair, right or wrong, safe, unsafe, are the perception or judgment that we use as a human being to survive. In the wild, human species had to evaluate what wild animals are dangerous or not dangerous, what are the good foods, what are the bad foods. It is normal to have a judgmental or evaluative mindset. However, it depends on how you use this evolutionary survival ability. It can help you or it can do more harm than good. With that being said, let's talk about mindfulness, which can help you moderate your judgmental mindset when necessary. I like to say that we need to be mindful and bodyful in order to stay in the present moment. Very simple and effective mindfulness technique I like to present to you. It's called 5 senses exercise. As long as we are alive, our senses are up and running. When you practice any coping skills, I want you to find somewhere you feel safe. When I'm at work, I'll go to the bathroom or I go to my desk. When I'm in public, I go to my car. Here are the simple steps of practicing 5 senses exercise in conjunction with self-holding exercise. First, I want you to think about mildly anxious moment that you had recently. I want you to scan your body using self-holding exercise to see how your body responds to that anxious moment. I'll give you time here. And then it is time to reconnect yourself with your environment. And I want you to acknowledge 5 things you can see. Look around you, notice 5 things that you have not noticed yet. Maybe you can see trees or pattern on the floor, the color of your chair, the bird outside, the people walking by. Let's notice that. What are the 5 things that you see in your surrounding? Again, let's pay attention to these 5 things with curiosity. You don't have to do anything about it. You're simply noticing it from a distance. Now we're going to use touch, one of our 5 senses. What are the 4 things you can touch in this moment? You can maybe feel the texture of the chair that you're sitting in. Maybe you can feel the ground. Maybe you can touch the cup of cold water. Let's take a moment to notice 4 things you can touch non-judgmentally. You're simply noticing these 4 things as they are. Now acknowledge 3 things you can hear. Notice all the sounds around you. Maybe you can hear traffic outside, we can hear people talking, we can hear TV, radio, whatever that you hear. Let's pay attention to them as they are. And now acknowledge 2 things you can smell. Look around you and find 2 things you can smell. Maybe you can smell your clothes, you can smell flower, you can smell grass, you can smell coffee, whatever that you can smell. Take your time to notice 2 things you can smell with curiosity. And acknowledge 1 thing you can taste. What are the things you can eat in your environment? What are the things you already eaten? Notice any sensation in your mouth with curiosity again. Maybe you can taste coffee, gum, snack, or air. Take your time to notice 1 thing you can taste with curiosity. After noticing your 5 senses, lastly, I want you to scan your body again with self-holding exercise. And notice how you breathe now. Did you notice any change or shift in your body and mind? Maybe you can bring up that anxious moment again to see how your body and your mind respond to it. Anxiety is your body's way of responding to perceived danger or threat. So ask your body if you feel still anxious or calmer. Let's notice that. What we are doing here is that we're not forcefully changing how we feel. I strongly believe that self-regulation begins with self-awareness. It is about buying time to check in with your body and your environment. The 5 senses exercise is a great technique to regain sense of safety and your connection with your environment. As the famous saying goes, the issues are in the tissues. So we want to get out of our mind, and first we want to regulate, calm our body in the present moment. Again, practice this exercise in a neutral setting. The more you practice, the more skillful you become. The later you'll be able to do this exercise while eating, driving, listening to music, talking to your friends. The list goes on. Remember, you can gradually increase the difficulty with this exercise. So let's take step by step. I encourage you to set aside some time for you to monitor yourself physically and emotionally and practice 5 senses exercise 2 or 3 times a day. Remember, 2 or 3 times a day. Each time will take about 5 minutes for your self-care. When dealing with anxiety, it's about building skills so that you can better cope with your anxiety. I hope you find our session helpful, and please leave a comment if you have any questions or concern. And I'm also happy to hear your own way of dealing with anxiety. So please share in the comment below. Take care of yourself and do your healing every day. I will see you in our next session.